Welcome to the BEASTwriter family where social media engagement is encouraged. I am your host, Ryan Sakamoto, and today we are going to continue my NFL draft grades as it pertains to all 32 NFL teams. I just wrapped up the NFC West yesterday, late last night, actually. Now we're going to go ahead and delve into the AFC West and talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. That's right. We're going to go ahead and break down what GM Brett Veach has done in his 2021 NFL draft class and why I believe the Kansas City Chiefs hit it out of the ballpark by making a multitude of different trades leading up to the draft and then also going best player available, not diminishing the value of the pick. Now, before we go ahead and get started, I just want to say thank you and mahalo to each and every one of you for subscribing to my channel. Just be sure to turn on and flip on the bell notifications so you get notified when I go live or when I upload content. All right, so we're just going to dive right into it. And I'm just going to pull up these tickers here as it pertains to the Chiefs' first round pick. All right, so in the first round, they didn't have one because what I just talked about just moments earlier, I said they went ahead and made a multitude of different trades leading up to the draft. One of them was trading for Orlando Brown Jr. from the Baltimore Ravens, and in return, they only gave up or yielded, I should say, a first round pick, number 31 overall. When you were sitting there at number 31, based on my analytics, based on the teams and the people that I was talking to within those respective organizations, and when stacking up my draft board, I knew they were going to go offensive tackle simply because if they weren't going to fill that need in free agency or via trade, that's the route that they would have to go on because, again, they lost left tackle Mitchell Schwartz. Sorry, not left tackle. He was a right tackle. Right tackle Mitchell Schwartz, but they also lost left tackle Eric Fisher. So when you lose both bookend tackles and then they don't even play in the Super Bowl because they've been injured and they're out, and now they're damaged goods at this point, and you release both those players and you don't have any bookend tackles to work with for the foreseeable future, you're going to have to replenish that type of talent through the draft, right? Because you don't have enough money to go out and sign some of these blindside left tackles in free agency because they're going to command top dollar on the open market in a decreased salary cap with the TV deals now taking place into next season. So with that being set in place, where a lot of players were put themselves in a disadvantage, basically betting on themselves on these 1 to 2 year prove it deals, Brett Veach thought it was a great idea to go ahead and make a play with a conference rival like the Baltimore Ravens, because at the end of the day, when you look at it, it's a win-win for both organizations. On one side, the Baltimore Ravens were put between a rock and a hard place because Orlando Brown Jr. didn't want to play in Baltimore anymore after being voted to the Pro Bowl as a blindside left tackle because Ronnie Stanley's coming back. He wants left tackle money, but Ronnie Stanley's there. He's also an all-pro Pro Bowl player, so something had to give. So at the end of the day, he ships him off and gets a first and third round pick in return. On the flip side of that, the Kansas City Chiefs benefit because they get their blindside left tackle who, by my account, is better than Eric Fisher anyways. And he's playing at a Pro Bowl level and still on a rookie deal. So again, he comes cheaper, still get the same level of Pro Bowl talent, probably better talent, and then upgrade at the position. So when you take that into account and then see what the Chiefs did with that pick, once they traded it to the Baltimore Ravens, they went ahead and selected defensive end Jason Owe. And again, Jason Owe is just a proverbial boomer bust prospect, which is kind of concerning for me because that's not usually GM Eric DeCosta's MO. He usually goes best player available. So I don't know why he went with Jason Owe here. And to put that in perspective, he had 0 sacks in 2021. He is the highest drafted player in 25 years in the common draft era to not record a single sack. That's kind of crazy lack of production, if you will, to think about. So if you were to put the 2 and 2 together and say, would I rather have OBJ or Jason Owe? Give me Orlando Brown Jr. over Jason Owe's upside any day of the week. And now you can solidify the left end or the left side or the weak side of the offensive line because what did? They signed Joe Thuney to the richest interior guard contract in NFL history, inking him to a 5-year, $80 million contract, signing him away from the New England Patriots. That gives him the best 1-2 punch on the weak side in the NFL. So it's smart play by GM Brett Veach, giving Pat Mahomes some usable, valuable protectors up front. So if I was to put a value grade on this selection, it would be a letter grade of an A. Now let's go ahead and move on to the second round pick. Pull up the ticker here. In the second round, the Kansas City Chiefs went ahead and struck gold with middle linebacker Nick Bolton in the second round, number 58 overall, out of Missouri, of course. And people are saying, well, how did this selection take place because they hold multiple second round picks? Correct. This came by ways of the Orlando Brown Jr. trade. So although they gave up a first and a third, they ended up getting a additional second round pick. With that being said, they used the first of the second round picks in the second round to go ahead and get a guy like Nick Bolton from Missouri. And what he is a two-down thumper, but then he also can provide coverage as a pass coverage asset, because again, that's one of the things that I really liked about Nick Bolton and in his game is his ability to drop spot and zone coverage and make plays on the football. And so while some people will say, well, no, he's just a two-down run stuffer, just look at him, how he shoots the gaps, A, B gap, whatever the case may be. I see a three-down linebacker, and there's some people who view him as a three-down linebacker. I would say about 65% of the people out there do. So the thing about it was people were concerned about Nick Bolton's 40-yard dash speed. I don't buy into that. Again, turn on the film. You see what you get in Nick Bolton, a sound player. Now, do I like this pick? I like the pick, but I thought there were better, higher-rated players on the board. Mainly, I thought Creed Humphrey would have been an upgrade. I think Carlos Basham at defensive end would have been a huge upgrade. Or if you look at the wide receiver position, they lost Sammy Watkins, right? So you need to replace that type of talent. Is Mecole Hardman a true wide receiver too? I'm not so sure. I would have rather the team go after a guy like Terrace Marshall, because at the end of the day, they re-signed Demarcus Robinson, but he's only signed on a one-year contract. So again, he's playing in the last year prove-it deal type of a deal. Why not go after the 25th player ranked on my big board in Terrace Marshall? He would have been a nice piece to a team that makes that makes a bigger strength, if you will, when it comes to the positional unit. And again, anytime you diminish the value of reaching for need, you diminish the value of the pick. And that is why I believe Terrace Marshall would have been a nice upgrade over a guy like Nick Bolton. But that's not to say that I don't like Nick Bolton. That's not to say I don't like this pick. But when you have a guy like Creed Humphrey sitting there, or even Quinn Miners, right? You go ahead and make that play and you solidify the offensive line, because we all saw what happened in the Super Bowl with Pat Mahomes. He got rattled. And everything starts up front, where games are still won down in the trenches, despite the league being a pass-happy NFL league. So, with that being said, I was put a letter grade on this, because, again, I see why they went after a guy like Nick Bolton, who is the highest rated inside linebacker in my grading system, outside of course, Micah Parsons, who can play the Sam, who can play the Mike, whatever the case may be. But with that being said, and Kansas City Chiefs moving on from Damian Wilson, who went off to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and GM Trent Baalke, Bolton is a three-down linebacker who excels in pass coverage. I like this pick, so I'm going to have to give him a solid B grade. All right. Now let's go ahead and move on. Let's talk about Creed Humphrey. All right. Who is Creed Humphrey? Well, Creed Humphrey is an offensive center, number 2 ranked offensive center in my grading system. As you know, Landon Dickerson came off the board to, I believe, the Philadelphia Eagles at number 37. So he's sitting here at 63 in the tail end of the second round. This is an absolute steal at this selection. They went ahead and made this pick. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs went out and signed offensive center Austin Blythe, but he's not the answer, right? Humphrey is an instant plug-and-play center. So when you get a guy like Creed Humphrey in the middle, then you have left guard Joe Thuney, and then you dissect that even more so, peeling back another layer of the onion to get to the core, as I always like to say it in all of my podcasts, and then you triple down on those games with Orlando Brown Jr. Now you have a solid offensive line that arguably is the best offensive line in all of football. Plain and simple. The Kansas City Chiefs went from one of the worst by not having Mitchell Schwartz and Eric Fisher there to now one of the best. How does that happen? Well, you have a great GM and Brett Veach. Plain and simple. And Creed Humphrey is a day one starter. Make no mistake about it. He is going to solidify the offensive line, make all the line calls. He's very smart, very bright, and very tough and nasty. Brings that nasty demeanor to the Chiefs offensive line. So again, a great value pick, as Humphreys is a top 50 rated player on my big board. And the rich just get richer with this selection. Although I thought they should have got him at 58. They waited until 63. He dropped just 5 picks later and still is on the board. Luckily for the Kansas City Chiefs, they benefit and get both players, Nick Bolton and now Creed Humphrey. So if a letter grade for this selection, I would have to give a letter grade of an A. All right. Now let's go ahead and move on. In the third round, like I just pointed out, they didn't have a third round pick because obviously that impacted the Orlando Brown Jr. trade and they had to give up something to gain something in return. So in doing so, they didn't have a third round pick, but it ultimately was Orlando Brown Jr. The Baltimore Ravens went ahead and made a play on an interior guard, Ben Cleveland. But if I was to take Orlando Brown Jr. or Ben Cleveland and Jason Owe, give me Orlando Brown Jr. and Nick Bolton any day of the week. So again, I like this pick. It's a win for the Kansas City Chiefs when it's all said and done. All right, now we're going to wrap it up, guys. The rest of the draft picks, here we go. The rest of the draft picks for the Kansas City Chiefs were Again, this draft class wasn't very deep, but they did use some type of a shotgun approach when it came to solidifying the offensive line and skill player position. So let's go ahead and break those picks down. In the fourth round, they selected defensive end Joshua Kindo. In the fourth round, number 144. In the fifth round, at pick number 162, they drafted a guy by the name of tight end Noah Gray. In the fifth round, at number 181, they drafted wide receiver Cornell Powell. And wrapping up, I really like this pick because this is a raw project. He was supposed to solidify himself as a fourth, fifth round grade based on the NFL circles and network that I was talking to. However, Trey Smith out of Tennessee drops in the sixth round to number 226. So if I was to put a letter grade on this, with all the parameters involved, the instant gratification for long-term gains, as I like to talk about in all my podcasts, you get an Orlando Brown Jr. that's still on a rookie deal. You bring in Joe Thuney. You solidify that with Creed Humphrey, getting him at number 63. You then find a upgrade at middle linebacker with Nick Bolton in the second round. So you're hitting, again, you're not reaching for need to diminishing the value of the pick as much as you are going best player available when it comes to your horizontal board. I really like the plays that Brett Veach has made. So if I was to run a letter grade on the 2021 NFL draft class as it pertains to your Kansas City Chiefs, I'm going to have to give them a letter grade of an A. All right. So drop your comments and let's talk football. That's it for this podcast. If you like my analysis and insights, please be sure to hit the subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner of your screen as you stay up to date on all things Beast in real time. All right, Beastwriter family, what are your thoughts? I love engaging with you on this platform. As you guys know, I get back to every single one of your comments. I am notorious from doing that in a good way because I like getting back to you guys. That's what social media engagement is encouraged here in the Beastwriter family. So please leave your comments. And again, welcome to the BWF. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care. Beastwriter out.